Hi, greetings, fellow Arrow fans. We're going to look at Arrow Season 2, now continues on with Heir to the Demon. The episode begins with a woman at an airport, Nissa Al Ghul, going through security. While her credentials are being checked, an Argus security threat alert pops up on the computer screen. Another guard appears behind Nissa, ordering her to put her hands in the air. Nissa seemingly complies, only to instantly disarm him and take down the other security personnel who attack her. In Queen Consolidated, Moira, along with Oliver, Thea, and Walter, is being introduced to what is going to happen now that she is starting a mayoral campaign against Sebastian Blood. In another room, Felicity approaches Walter and states that Tempest had made a monetary withdrawal into Starling National Bank. Walter says he'll ask Moira about it, and thanks Felicity for bringing it to his attention. Mark Francis approaches Oliver and reveals that he will need to withdraw support from Sebastian's campaign. Oliver agrees. He then receives a call from Quentin. Oliver arrives at a hospital room where Laurel, Quentin, and Dinah are in. Laurel refutes her father's belief in that she overdosed, but that she merely fell unconscious. Nurse Guzman states that they need to check Laurel's eye, as there could be some hemorrhaging from her hitting her head when she passed out. As Oliver departs, he kisses Laurel on the cheek and briefly glances into her damaged eye, seeing a yellowish reflection in her pupil. As they depart, Laurel holds Quentin back and confides him that she vividly saw Sarah, even though she espouses that she was only hallucinating. Back at the Arrow Cave, Oliver comes in to see Sarah is doing pull-ups on the salmon ladder as Felicity and Dickel watch. Felicity mentions to Oliver that Sarah has been doing that for an hour. Oliver assures Sarah that she saved Laurel's life. Sarah wonders how he found her, to which Oliver replies that he would never lose her again. Sarah insists she has to leave, as the League of Assassins will be coming after her. Oliver points out that Sarah's family needs her, and so does he. He then asks that Felicity retrieve Laurel's blood work from the hospital. Quentin is sitting at a diner when Sarah arrives. Sarah hugs him and Quentin asks her to stay for a cup of tea. He points out that Sarah just can't keep popping up every time one of her family members is in trouble, as it's not the way to live, and she needs to face things. Sarah simply hugs her father again, and then walks out. While walking down an alley, Oliver watches Sarah leave, and is surprised when Nissa appears from the roof. She walks towards Sarah with a dagger in her hand. Oliver steadies his bow, prepared to shoot. When Nissa is close to Sarah, she instead kisses her. Oliver lowers his bow, in shock, and briefly smirks at the view. Nissa then breaks the kiss and mentions Sarah's boyfriend. Nissa expresses her desire to bring Sarah home to the League of Assassins, but the Arrow won't hear of it. Sarah takes Oliver aside and tells him to trust her. Felicity pays Moira a visit at the mansion to talk about Tempest. She traced the payment on Tempest to Dr. Gill, who delivered Thea, and has figured out that Malcolm is Thea's father. Felicity urges Moira to tell her children about this before they find out another way. Moira instead tries to emotionally manipulate Felicity into keeping quiet by using her feelings for Oliver, claiming he will hate her for destroying his life with this revelation. Moira says, we all have to keep secrets. Shaken, Felicity leaves. Sarah tells Nissa she had to make sure her family was safe after the undertaking, and admits she doesn't think she can go back to the killing. Nissa reminds Sarah that she swore an oath and points out how she saved Sarah's life on Leanne Yu. They discuss their romantic feelings. Sarah wants Nissa to ask her father, Ra's al Ghul, for her release. When Nissa refuses, Sarah responds, do what you have to, but Nissa leaves peacefully. Oliver is in the Arrow Cave worrying about Sarah. When Sarah returns, she still considers trying to leave. Diggle shows up and reveals that Laurel was poisoned, as the Benepit viper venom was found in her blood, but no drugs. Oliver deduces Nissa did it to bring Sarah back to Starling City. Sarah realizes her family is in danger from the League. At the hospital, Dinah leaves the sleeping Laurel to get water. Suddenly, someone kidnaps Dinah and throws her into a van driven by Nissa. Sarah and the Arrow follow closely behind on his motorcycle. Sarah just on top of the van but is knocked out by Nissa, who escapes. Sarah calls her father and he meets her in the Arrow. Sarah tells Quentin how Nissa kidnapped her mother, explaining how Nissa wants the former back romantically. Nissa calls Sarah and gives her one day to return, threatening to kill Dinah if she refuses. Oliver vows to find Dinah. Felicity discovers that Tibetan pit viper venom had to be acquired locally from a zoo and learns that it had been stolen. They're able to track down a license plate which may be connected to Nissa. Sebastian calls Oliver and tells him he understands why he's pulling his support. Moira and Sebastian meet, and he warns her to drop out of the race. He claims he doesn't like he doesn't like the idea of destroying his friend's mother. Quentin asks Sarah where she met the arrow. She doesn't give him a straight answer, claiming from a vigilante club. An assassin shows up but is taken out by the arrow, Sarah, and Quentin. He then quickly kills himself with the poison. Before Moira's campaign event, Oliver insists something is going on. Felicity asks what's wrong. Felicity tearfully reveals her father abandoned her and she doesn't get along with her mother. She is scared of losing Oliver as well, to which she comforts her, promising that will never happen. Oliver implores Felicity to tell him what is bothering her. Felicity reveals she knows something about his family. Nyssa calls Sarah. Sarah promises Nyssa that she'll return with her to the League if her mother is released. Nyssa agrees, claiming it's the right thing for them both. Meanwhile, Sarah is standing at her grave, looking at a vial of Tibetan pit viper venom. At Laurel's apartment, Quentin's about to tell Laurel the truth about her sister. Just then, Sarah calls her father. She has found Dinah and needs Quentin's help. Sarah tells him to keep this a secret from the arrow. Quentin then leaves without telling Laurel anything, leaving her suspicious. Walter brings Oliver to the stage. It appears Felicity has just told him the truth. Oliver seems shaken and his intro starts out slow and emotional. He whispers, "I know," to his mother and as he hands her the stage. Oliver, Felicity, and Dougal return to the arrow cave and find the Tibetan pit viper venom missing. Oliver thinks Sarah tends to kill Nyssa and believes they'll come under fire from Raj if she succeeds. Quentin rushes in to rescue Dinah. Sarah reveals to her mother that she is alive, much to Dinah's joy. Sarah explains she has to go and tells her parents to leave. Quentin is forced to drag Dinah away as she tries to stop her daughter. Sarah begins to walk forward but then stumbles to the ground, having poisoned herself with the Tibetan pit viper venom. Clasping Nyssa's arms, Sarah says she can't return to the League. Quentin rushes in and calls for an ambulance. In a fit of rage, Nyssa attacks Quentin, but the arrow shows up and battles her. The arrow explains he can save Sarah, but Nyssa continues to fight him until he traps her in a headlock. Sarah stumbles over and pleads with him not to kill Nyssa. The arrow rushes to Sarah's side and gives her some Lian Yu herbs, saving her life. Sarah begs Nyssa, "No more killing." Shocked to reveal that Sarah's okay, Nyssa responds, "In the name of Raj Al Ghul, I release you." Nyssa and the arrow then vanish as the police, Quentin, and Dinah arrive. Sarah's parents embrace her, overjoyed that she is okay. Unbeknownst to them, Laurel's watching the reunion from a short distance, shocked to see that her sister is alive. In the mansion, Oliver confronts his mother about the truth, fears that she lied to him and Thea again and even tried to threaten Felicity. Moira says she did so to protect Thea from Malcolm, but Oliver responds that the lies are what she is and now she's made him a liar. Oliver states that Thea can never find out about her parentage and tells her, "Privately, you and I are done." Oliver then leaves despite Moira's pleas. Aww. At Laurel's apartment, Dinah is elated that she was right about Sarah being alive all along. Laurel pours herself a drink, refusing to talk with her sister. Laurel's angry with Quentin for lying to her and lashes out at Sarah over everything that's gone wrong in their family. She writes that Sarah got onto the Queen's gambit with Laurel's boyfriend, didn't bother to at least contact her family to let them know she was alive, even though it could have saved their parents' marriage, and brought an assassin back home who nearly killed Laurel and their mother. Laurel accuses Sarah of stealing the former's life away and demands that she leave. Sarah tearfully apologizes, but Laurel flies in a fit of rage and throws a glass of wine at her sister, screaming for her to get out. Slade warns Sebastian not to underestimate Moira and tells him that he'll take care of the situation with her. Sarah goes to the arrow cave and finds Oliver training. He notices that Sarah has been crying and she reveals Laurel isn't happy to see her. Oliver advises her just to give Laurel some time. When Sarah asks what's wrong with him, Oliver says his mother isn't who he thought he was, without going into detail. As the two wonder what's next, Sarah tells Oliver she knows for certain she's home now. They passionately kiss. Aww. So anyway, in a flashback from 6 years ago, Quentin's on the phone with Lucas Hilton on a work-related matter while cooking lunch. Dinah, who was great at papers, cheerfully urges Quentin to hang up and spend some time with his family. Laurel arrives in the kitchen and discusses applying to law school with her parents. Sarah then returns home on a 3-day weekend from college and is warmly greeted by her family. As they prepare to eat, Sarah quickly texts Oliver that she has arrived home. That night, Laurel spots Sarah texting on her phone, teasing wonders if her sister met a boy at school, which the latter denies. Sarah then asks Laurel about her and Oliver's relationship status, to which Laurel happily reveals that she's looking at apartments for the two of them, believes marriage is around the corner. Sarah brings up Oliver's habit of sleeping around, pointing out that he may not be ready for the future Laurel wants. Laurel becomes offended and accuses Sarah of trying to sabotage her future. Sarah then storms off to her room and texts Oliver, agreeing to meet him at the docks where the Queen's Gambit will depart, with her message history revealing she was having second thoughts. A few days later, Quint is watching a football game while doing the dishes. Laurel arrives, lamenting her struggle in apartment hunting for herself and Oliver. They reflect on Quentin moving in with and ultimately marrying Dinah. Just then, a news broadcast reports that the Queen's Gambit is missing. Laura breaks out in tears over Oliver's supposed fate as Quentin tries to console her. Shortly after, Laura arrives and Sally informs Quentin and Laurel that Sarah was on the yacht with Oliver. Dun dun dun! So now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The episode's title explicitly refers to Nyssa, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. However, it also discreetly refers to the idea that Thea is also an heir to the demon specifically being Malcolm. We're talking to Oliver about her past. Felicity implies she had a strained relationship with her mother, which was confirmed in the Season 3 episode, The Secret Origin of Felicity's Smoke. And now let's take a look at a goof. After Dinah is kidnapped, Sarah receives a phone call from Nyssa just after speaking with her father at the hospital. When she answers and talks to the phone, Sarah's phone screen and its reflection on her face display the answer and reject call button images, meaning she didn't actually answer the incoming call, yet still has a full conversation with Nyssa on the other side. And now finally let's take a look at a behind-the-scenes sort of thing. Colton Haynes was said to have filmed a fight scene with Katrina Law, though it was ultimately cut. This is from a deleted scene which Oliver tells Roy to go to the hospital to watch over Laurel. There, Roy witnesses Nyssa kidnapping Dinah and faces off with her, but ultimately loses. Aww. So I think this episode is actually pretty dang good, and I like the fact that Sarah's no longer with the League of Assassins, and the fact that Sarah and Nyssa had something going on was a little surprising, so there you go. So overall, I give Heir to the Demon 4 arrowheads out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in as we take a look at the next episode, Time of Death. So, until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.